Well, I'm really glad you brought up this stakeholder capitalism idea, because I know that Klaus Schwab of the forum has really pushed this idea and that it was all over the agenda. But yeah, I think concrete examples of what that looks like may have been harder to find. So, our president and editor-in-chief, Raj Kumar, mentioned, I think in an opening video from Davos, yeah, you see these business leaders all over Davos wearing the SDG pins on their lapels, but the examples of actually changing the way they do business to achieve the SDGs are maybe few and far between. Any new examples you saw of that this week, or conversations that gave you a sense of optimism?
Sure. I mean, I think one of the things that I would say is that you are seeing sort of individual leadership from certain companies or commitments. You saw Microsoft commit to becoming carbon neutral. And I think even I was speaking with the head of Oxfam in India this morning, and he was saying that even the fact that the conversation is happening about a shift in the system is a good step. Certainly not enough, but that it is good. And I think that, we're seeing a couple other sort of examples along that front as well. But I think it's happening instead of in a systemic way. Maybe a company is making a commitment here or there. And you're seeing it in certain sectors. You are seeing some sort of, not necessarily new, but, partnerships that are multi-sector, platforms or partnerships coming together to try to further specific issues. For example, youth employment empowerment in Africa, or, smallholder farmer initiative that launched. But I think the difference is the sort of level of scale or cohesion.
Yeah, agreed. One example that I was struck by, and we should have a story coming out on this next week. This morning I spoke with Leslie Johnston, who has been leading the CNA Foundation, which is really focused on fashion as a force for good. That, as of this week, they announced has evolved into the Loudest Foundation. And part of their restructuring is this idea of stakeholder capitalism. So we talked about this just this morning. I said, stakeholder capitalism, it's mentioned, but there aren't really many examples of what that really looks like. And she did talk about, this system that has prioritized short-term profits, shareholder value above all. It has been destructive, not only in the fashion industry, but business at large. And she talked about the need to redefine value. And that's the whole framing of the Loudest Foundation, is redefining value, which again is a little hard to articulate what that looks like, but they have some pretty interesting levers they're going to be working with to try and change that conversation. So that's something to follow.
Yeah. On the issue of the fashion industry, we certainly did see the fashion industry come together, and a number of leaders agree to what they call a CEO agenda, which is outlining a series of sustainability priorities for fashion executives, and sort of looking at how the industry can redesign growth and sort of how we look at fashion today to make it more sustainable. So I think, that'll be an interesting space to watch. When I spoke with Paul Pullman back in December, his organization that he started is working with the fashion industry, which is one of a very significant polluter. And so they're really looking to convene CEOs to try to see also how do you sort of try to change the industry at a broad level with buy-in in ways that are, pre-competitive, where you can have cooperation.